At an old hospital, new nurses always seem to hear the same strange warning. Not from management, not during training, just quietly from the older staff. They tell them, if you see a man in a hospital gown standing in the hallway at 3 a.m., don't follow him. Most people thought it was just an old hospital story, until a new security guard started his first night shift. At around 3 a.m., he was checking the security cameras when he noticed someone standing at the end of a hallway. A man in a hospital gown. His head was down, and he wasn't moving. The guard assumed a patient had wandered out of their room, but a few seconds later, the man started walking down the hallway. That's when something felt wrong. No patients were supposed to be there. That entire floor had been closed for renovations months earlier. The guard grabbed his radio and headed toward the hallway, but when he got there, it was empty. No open doors, no patients, nobody. Thinking it was probably a camera glitch, he went back to the control room, but the man was still there. This time he looked closer, almost like he was staring directly into the camera. The guard felt a chill run down his spine. He paused the footage and zoomed in. The man's face was unnaturally pale, and his eyes looked completely black. A few minutes later, the image suddenly disappeared. The next morning, he told one of the older nurses what he'd seen. She listened quietly, then asked him to show her the footage. The moment the man appeared on the screen, her face went pale. Without saying much, she walked straight to the hospital archives. A few minutes later, she returned with an old patient file. It belonged to a man who had been admitted to the hospital years earlier, a patient who had died the night before a scheduled surgery. But that wasn't the disturbing part. They placed the patient's photo next to the image from the security camera. Everything matched. The face, the hair, even the scar beside his eye. Then they looked at the date on the file, and nobody said a word. That patient had died more than 20 years ago. The guard shook his head. There has to be someone who just looks like him. The nurse slowly shook hers. Then she asked him to replay the footage. They watched it several times, but the strangest part came later. One of the older employees saw the photo and immediately recognized it. Then he said, "You're not the first person who's seen this man." He went into storage and pulled out several old reports. Over the last 15 years, different nurses and security guards had all reported seeing the same figure. A man in a hospital gown, head down, standing at the end of a hallway, always at 3 a.m. The strange thing was that none of them knew about the patient file, and none of them had seen the previous reports. Yet every description was almost exactly the same. Over the years, the story spread throughout the hospital, and even today, nobody has ever been able to explain who that man really was.